evening, and thank you for being here. SNAG, an abbreviation for Cynthia Nohra Art Gallery, will open its doors to the public in November 11, 2011, with a group show entitled The New Era, featuring unique artists such as Chawky Frenn, Antoine Mansour, Charles Andraus, Marie-Jo Aidi, Alexandre Zerbet, Retti Tambourgi, Samir Muller, and myself, Cynthia Nohra. The gallery will promote modern and contemporary art from around the globe, with an emphasis on the will to transcend the human condition. Art, being a universal language, can help transmute ignorance into the knowledge of our higher self. It is, then, the artist's role to channel these forces of existence by maneuvering his artistic tools in a composition that would enhance those higher virtues of humankind, such as justice, ethics, humility, etc. Chawky Frenn is one of those artists that dare to remain authentic. As a Lebanese native, Chawky left his country at an early age to the United States to graduate with a bachelor and a master's in fine arts. He has been teaching for 11 years as an associate professor at George Mason University in Virginia, USA, and has done several solo shows in the US, France, Germany, Italy, and now SNAG is honored to be the first gallery in Lebanon to represent Chawky's work, first in the group show of November 11, 2011, then in a solo show on February 23, 2012. Please welcome artist Chawky Frenn.
Hello. Okay. I want to welcome all of you. The first thing I want to do is I want to thank Cynthia for her amazing times that we spent together. I only met her literally a week ago, and I was so humbled by her invitation to be represented by her gallery. When I asked her, why did you want to represent me, she answered that I love the humanist dimension of your work. And that was enough for me to be hooked. So I want to thank you for that. The second thing I want to thank her for is that, you see, I have a dear friend that I want to acknowledge because he's present here tonight, Cesar Namour, who has been a dear friend and a very strong believer for many, many years. Me and Cesar have met in the early 90s in Paris through a mutual friend. And through the 20 years that we've known each other, he's been a true believer, and I cannot thank him enough for that. And when the opportunity came for him to invite me to have a solo show at the American University, which was actually the first time and the only time I showed in Lebanon. The reason why I wanted this lecture to take place is because of the responses that I've heard when I had my solo show that Cesar had arranged for me. My memory of that show is, I'm going to say in Lebanese, نحن عشنا الحرب ما بدنا لوحات تذكرنا بالحرب. Thank you. So basically I felt that, you know, whether I show in the United States, I've had shows in Germany twice, in Düsseldorf and in Cologne. I had a show in Lille. I had 2 shows in Italy, in Milano and in Rome. And I had that show in Beirut that Cesar has arranged. And I can honestly tell you from my experience, because I've been to all these shows, what was amazing for me is man is the same everywhere. Wherever I go, in every dimension, in every aspect, and every context. I remember, because of that shows that Cesar arranged, I had an interview with the Daily Star, and the lady who interviewed me sent me a set of questions ahead of time for me to think about. And one of the questions was, how did people receive your work in Italy differently from Germany, or differently from France, or differently from Lebanon? And my answer was, it was the same response everywhere, in America too. I lived in America since 1981. I lived in Boston for a while. I lived in New York for 1 year. I lived in Philadelphia for 1 year. And then I've been in Washington, D.C. since September of 2000. And the reason why I went to Washington is because I got a teaching job at George Mason University. And I started as an assistant professor. I am now tenured. I am an associate professor. And if you see me in my work, and if you see me in the classroom, you would say this guy has schizophrenia, because they are two different personalities that have nothing to do with each other. And this is the truth. And I want to tell an anecdote here that will explain a little bit something about my personality. I used to be a waiter to support my art. And I say that story to my students, and I love to say it. I was a waiter for 10 years after finishing my master's. You know, when you are an artist, you don't have a company that hired you, you don't have a university that hired you, you don't have a gallery that give you a show because they cannot sell your work. And I warned Cynthia about that, didn't I? You have to do whatever it takes to do your work. And I had a couple, a doctor and his wife, who used to come to Boston enough to visit their daughter who was attending Boston University at the time. And I was a regular waiter, and you know, when I used to tell them what was the special of the evening, I used to tell them, you buy one painting, you get a small one free. Anyway, when they knew I was an artist, they asked me if they can come to my studio. They came to my studio, and they could see right at the entrance from the door about 30 paintings that I put on the walls, on the tables, on my easels. And the first thing they said is that, is this your studio? I said, yes. Is this your work? Yes. You've painted that? Yes. Why? What's the problem? They said, the person that we met at the restaurant is so light, is so full of life, is so vibrant, is so enthusiastic, is so radiant. And the person that we see here is going to commit suicide. Which one is you? And it is all these stories that I have stored in my memory, and that really caused me to send an email to many friends and peers asking them, I want to help Cynthia. And the way I want to help her is by addressing these issues before they surface. I'm not depressed, I'm not sad, I am a child in my energy and in my love of life, but in my work there is something that is as close to a mission and as close to a vocation as I can get. Because when I was 13 and 14 years old, the first time I took a pencil to start a sketch and to do a drawing is to do something that I couldn't put in words. I thought the image was my salvation to express something that cannot be expressed in words.